If conditions for tuition do not improve, it may have to consider closing the institution. Operations have been suspended until further notice. Students across the country have been protesting following Higher Education Minister Dr. Nzimande's announcement a week ago that he would cap university fee increases at 8%. Wits University and University of Johannesburg students are both holding mass meetings today. They want to discuss the way forward and whether to participate in more protests. Earlier, however, Wits University students vowed to continue their protests until their demands for free tertiary education are met. The students, along with religious and traditional leaders, parents and academics, held a prayer service on the university's main campus in Braamfontein yesterday for peaceful fees must fall protests. Property was damaged at Wits last week during clashes between protesting students and security guards. Well, let's get an update now on the situation. Our reporter Chriselda Lewis joins us live from Johannesburg. Chriselda, good afternoon to you. We're expecting a mass meeting shortly, not only for Wits but also UJ. As I understand it, you are there. Tell us what's happening.
Well, that's right, Natasha. You would recall, of course, that the University of Johannesburg had been on recess. They're back at the university now. It's opened, and what we're expecting to take place from noon today is a meeting between the student leaders and the students as well on whether to join the action that we have seen take place at Wits University just down the road and the other universities around the country. So that meeting will really be a telltale about whether the University of Johannesburg itself will also embark on this action of the fees must fall protests or free education now. But just when we arrived here a few minutes ago, Natasha, you can already sense that the security itself is extremely tight. We were asked many questions when we arrived here about what we were doing, were we students, so a lot has gone into ensuring that the situation remains as normal here at the University of Johannesburg's Auckland Park campus. But we're waiting, perhaps in the next hour or two, we'll get an indication from these students and the student leadership about what the way forward is for them and whether they will join Wits University and the other campuses that we've seen shut down around the country.
As far as gauging what that meeting will hold and the sentiment from students, have you been able to sort of track what's most likely to come out? Does it look like protests will continue the rest of the week?
Well, absolutely, Natasha. It does not look like there's any indication at this stage of these protests slowing down. What we do get a sense at this point is that you must recall, when I spoke to you last week, one of the ways that the students had charted forward, they said they were calling for a national shutdown. They wanted every single university in the country to come to a standstill. Now, we're also wondering what we are seeing this morning. You'd recall, of course, in Pretoria, we have the universities there also joining these protests. We're also looking at UKZN. We're seeing all these universities flaring up, and whether this national call that was heeded by some of these students last week clearly seems to be an indication of these other universities heeding that call. We're not expecting anything different to come from this consultation that the leadership, the student leadership at Wits University will have with students. It is certainly going to continue. What these students are saying is that they're not prepared at all to ensure that these university doors open anytime soon. They're not concerned about the academic year. What they want at this point is for someone to reverse that decision that you referred to when the Higher Education Minister Nzimande had given institutions leeway to decide their own increases for 2017. So I wouldn't say your guess is as good as mine at this point. It's quite clear that these students are not going to back down. What we're also seeing at Wits University, because we have been monitoring the two universities quite closely, is that also at Wits University the security remains extremely tight there, in particular because you would recall over the weekend the campus security had also found some petrol bombs. So that meant that the university itself needed to heighten the security measures that it put in place, but absolutely no sign of the students at this point, except, of course, from the meetings which started now at 12 o'clock. So what will happen at the University of Johannesburg and Wits University certainly this afternoon will be an indicator of whether both these universities will now shut down.
Thank you very much. So we await to see what comes out of those mass meetings. But as you say, it seems as though protests will continue. That's Chriselda Lewis live from the University of Johannesburg, just giving an update on exactly what's happening at Wits and at UJ.